Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Here is distance time graph or the displacement time graph. As you know that displacement is a vector quantity and distance is a scalar quantity. In vector quantities we need direction and in scalar quantities we don't need direction. So as for the graphs of distance time graph and displacement time graph, both the graphs are drawn almost the same way, only there are certain facts which must be remembered, which I have mentioned here. You can see that the slope or gradient of the distance time graph or displacement time graph gives you the speed or velocity. Speed or velocity. Okay, so if you are considering displacement time graph, then obviously we will say velocity. If we are considering it as distance time graph, then we will say speed. Only this is the main difference. Now another thing, the positive gradient the positive gradient is line like this. The positive gradient gives that the movement is in the same direction as the displacement is, and the negative gradient, the steepness of the line in this direction, that gives you that the movement in the opposite direction to the displacement. These are the main facts which must be remembered. Okay, now come to the graphs which I have drawn here for you. This first graph, distance or displacement and time. Along the y-axis we are taking displacement or distance, and along the x-axis we are taking time. In the first case, you can see that this line is horizontal line along the y-axis. As you know that all the horizontal lines have the gradient 0, it means that the speed of the body is 0 because the slope is 0. Now here it is also shown that no distance has been covered so far. Now here another line I have shown you. This is also horizontal line. It means here also the body is at rest. But what is the difference between these two? Here the body has covered this much distance. This much distance has been covered. Then after covering this much distance, the body has come to rest. Okay. I hope you have understood this. Now the second graph. Here I have drawn two straight lines A and B which are steeper. B is more steeper than A. Both the lines are showing that the body is moving with constant speed. The difference is only this, that the speed of B is greater because its steepness is greater as compared to steepness of A. So B is at higher speed and A is at lower speed. Okay. Now come to the other point, that if this is the curve, this curve is showing that the speed is decreasing, speed or velocity is decreasing, and this curve is showing that the speed or velocity is increasing. How we can decide that the speed or the velocity is increasing or decreasing from these two graphs? Let us consider, as you know that tangent, we have to draw the tangent along the curves. I think so you people are aware that what is tangent. Tangent is the line tangent is a straight line which is drawn along the curve, which is touching the curve at a single point. Now for example, here in the first case I am going to find out the speed of the body at this point. Say this point is P point. I am going to find out the speed of the body or velocity of the body at P point. Then I will have to draw a straight line which is called the tangent to the curve at this point P. So this straight line must touch the curve at a single point. Now I am taking another point here on the curve, anywhere on the curve, like this Q point I have taken anywhere on the curve randomly. So here again I am going to draw the tangent of the line. Now you can see that I have drawn only two tangents. You can draw as many tangents you can. From these two tangents you can see that the tangent at P is more steeper and tangent at Q is less steeper. It means that here the speed was greater, but here the speed is smaller. So from here we can see that gradually the speed is decreasing. So this is the decreasing speed. Now here if I am taking a point P at this instance. Now I am going to draw the tangent to the curve at point P. You can see that this tangent line is showing the speed or velocity of the body. Now let us consider another point Q. I have to draw the tangent at Q, so these two tangents I have drawn before you. So you can see that tangent at P is lesser steeper than the tangent at Q. It means here the speed was smaller, but here the speed is larger, because the slope is showing that this is a less steeper slope and this is more. Now let us consider these two curves in the distance time graph or displacement time graph. This is the curve like this. This is showing increasing speed or velocity. Now this curve is showing the decreasing speed or velocity. You know that whenever the velocity is increasing or decreasing, the acceleration is there. Okay, now how we can decide that the speed is increasing or velocity is increasing or speed or velocity is decreasing? We have to decide it from the gradient of the tangent. We have to draw a tangent here. As you know that tangent is the straight line which touches the curve or circle at a single point. Now let us consider a point here. Here anywhere on the curve I have taken this point, say this is point P. I have to draw a tangent along this point P which is touching the curve at a single point P. So this is the tangent along the curve at point P. Now I am drawing another point Q. Now I am taking another tangent along this point Q. You can see that this is another tangent which I have drawn along the curve. Here you can see that the tangent at P is less steeper than the tangent at Q. Its slope is lesser as compared to slope at Q. So it is showing that the speed is gradually increasing because this is lesser slope, it is greater slope. So as many points you will draw and you will draw the tangents, from that trend you can find out that the velocity or speed is increasing. Now the same thing you can do in this case. Let us consider a point P here and draw a tangent at P like this. Now you have to take another point Q and draw another tangent at Q like this. So here you can see that here the tangent was more steeper. Here the tangent is less steeper. From the steepness we can consider that here the speed was greater but here the speed is lesser. So this trend of the gradient of the tangent is showing that the speed or velocity is decreasing. So it is very much clear that the slope or the gradient of the distance time graph gives you the speed or velocity.